upside down.
All right, now it is the next day. I ran my boat yesterday. Didn't turn out great. It wouldn't run again. I ran one battery through it. Whatever. So I'm going to change the topic of today's video to something really cool. I haven't seen anybody else have one of these, but I want to go ahead and open it up and show it to you. Now, yesterday in the mail, if you remember, I bent the rudder on the Dominator. So this is the same rudder that's on the Dominator, but a different bracket. The quality of this bracket's a lot better than the quality of the stock bracket that actually comes on the Dominator. And everything that I measured seems that it would be a direct fit. The only difference is this arm is only like 3 millimeters longer. I think the one on there measures 82 and this one measures 85. So the blade's only going to stick out like another 3 or 4 millimeters. And then I went ahead and got a Impulse 32 drive shaft here from OSE. They already make this in a kit. I think it's like 30 or 40 bucks. But I also run the same shaft in my Dominator now. The Dominator and the Impulse both share the same shaft. It just makes it simpler for me to where I can have one shaft on hand for both boats. But that's not what I'm excited about. What I'm excited about is this right here. The brand new Tenshock Evolution is never ending. So they have this on their website that's listed, and it is special order. Let's go ahead and open this bad boy up. I honestly forget what KV I bought. I think I was shooting for 6S because every time I run 8S, I always think, golly, you know, it's such a heavy setup. So let's look at this thing. This thing is gorgeous. Yeah. Man, I love the big old leads that are on the end of it. That is super cool. Let's see. We're all looking at this together for the first time. Let's see. Okay, so this is a 2100 kV. It's 2260/2100 kV. I couldn't remember. You know, I like to stay in between that 1800 to 2200 range on most of my stuff. This right here is probably going to perform really, really, really well. I'm kind of curious if it will fit in my Impulse 32. I'm kind of keen on popping out that TP motor and just popping this in just to see what happens. But since this is a 37 millimeter can, none of my other cooling jackets are going to fit. So I'm going to have to make damn sure that the rudder feed goes in here, because the rudder on the Impulse is really, really good cooling. But yeah, I think what I'm going to try next is going to be swapping this into the Impulse, which is going to be absolutely epic. Like, absolutely epic. Okay, cool. They even give us little adapters here. Now, since this thing's probably going to pull a hellacious amount of amps, I know that the regular Tenshock motor, they offer the Hydra Xlx2 to run it. Now, I had received a package yesterday when I had received my rudder in the mail. It was this box here. So let's go ahead and open this up. All right, it's my Xlx2. They Castle went ahead, sent it back. I think it took 3 weeks to get this all the way returned, and he said he was going to throw this in with it. Basically, me and Big B were both having the same trouble at the same time, and I think it was all due to the wireless B-Link. So he says sometimes it'll glitch out when you're using your phone. If your phone is like, you know, you're pulling data and you're pulling your log or whatever, and then somebody tries to call you or text you. And I told him after it happened, I started to put my phone on Do Not Disturb if you have an Android. And he goes, he said something about older phones, you could put them in airplane mode, but recently airplane mode turns off your Wi-Fi and your Bluetooth. He says, but once that was the case, he said you could no longer do that. I told him about the Do Not Disturb function on Androids, and he said, I actually like that. He goes, I'm going to go ahead and start telling, you know, any Android user, if you're pulling data or if you're using the wireless Bluetooth link, to go ahead and put your phone on Do Not Disturb. So I might have to throw this in the Impulse in order to run this, because I don't know if that Spectrum 160 is going to be able to handle the type of amps that this big motor is going to throw at. You know, I think it's a 3790 is what it is, and all the others are 3760s. I may be wrong, but this is the $279 motor that is on pre-order. I did not expect it to come in this fast. We are the beginning of May, and I was expecting this to show up in June, honestly. But awesome that it showed up that soon. So I'm going to go ahead, we're going to pull the Impulse down and see if we can get this thing fitted up. Now, before we start this project, what I want to do, I want to go ahead and get a weight to see what the Impulse weighs now versus what it's going to weigh after we put the Tenshock motor in it and the Xlx2 in it. Okay, so here we go. We got 7.229 pounds. I wish it would give me ounces. Let's see. Here we go. 7 pounds, 3.5 ounces. So 7 pounds, 3.5 ounces with the current setup. Now I do have this big Speedmaster rudder on here, different, you know, setup in the rear, and then we have a TP motor inside. So yeah, we have this, which is a 3686 2060 kV. And I'm going to see if the 3790 will fit in here, which honestly it should. I don't see why it shouldn't, but we're going to see. Because I need to go ahead now, I need to take a mic and take a micrometer and measure the outside of the cooling can versus the outside of the cooling can of this Leopard cooling can, and just see what they are, because the way that the stock strap is, that's how it holds the motor down, is via the cooling can. So I just want to see. Alright, so what I did, I just measured the outside of the can. I got 44 millimeters on the Tenshock motor. I got 40 millimeters on the Leopard Hobby cooling can, which is the same one that's in the boat currently. And then I got 41.5 on the stock motor cooling can. So in order to fit this motor, we're gonna have to do a little bit of grinding and manipulating on that stock mount. Now it may fit. Not saying it won't, but we're talking about 2.5 to 3 millimeters bigger than what this one is, or at least what the stock one is. We got 41.5 to 44 on the outside. So we're just gonna take it apart and see if it fits. All right, I went ahead, got the motor all loose. That should come right out. Okay, here we are. Go ahead and set that down. Take our motor mount there, and the only thing we have to take off now is we got to take off our collet, and then we have to take off our little front motor mount. Okay, so the motor's all taken out. Now I wanted to kind of show these two things here, and I'm not really sure if I can run them yet, but I want to show you the difference as to why. So this right here is your typical 3/16 collet. It has 3 flanges that are going to bite onto your cable. And then this one over here is the slightly more expensive ETTI. It's the ETTI brand. And see, this has 4 points of binding onto your cable. Recently, since I've been kind of upping the power to my stuff, I've been having an issue with these things spinning on my cables. And I try my best to wipe any and all grease off of it, but I still think a little bit gets on there. But I wanted to try this brand here because I noticed they were slightly more expensive, only by about $4. But I like the fact they look sick. I mean, you just look at that next to that, and I honestly think there's going to be a lot more gripping power when it comes to a collet like that. But we're going to try it. We're going to see. Just don't know. All right, so the motor's completely out. Next thing we got to do is we got to pull out this 160. All right, Spectrum Firma 160 is now out and on the table. We have got basically an empty hull here that we can start manipulating. Now, if you're new here and you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, go ahead, do me a favor, smash that subscribe button. Help me get this channel to at least 1,000 subscribers, because I know anybody who's watching this has not seen an extended long can Tenshock motor before. So if you want to see more videos like this of these rare, expensive motors, please help me get monetized. That's what's going to help me continue to make this content. And in the future, we may have some more badass boats show up on the channel. But that's all dependent on if y'all can help me grow this channel. Now, looks like I've got a pretty big space here. Let's see what the Xlx2 looks like just fitment wise. Actually doesn't look too bad, to be completely honest with you. I can probably get it to stay right there and still give me enough room for my receiver box there. All I have to do is find a way to get that to stay permanently in place. Now, I don't think there's room for any straps here. No, there's not. Would be really cool if any of these points were apart from one another. I could screw a battery strap down and then mount it that way. But we don't have that luxury. So, what we do have is this. This is also sold on Offshore Electric. This is their Xlx2 carbon fiber mount. I think you can find this on their page. That's like their sale page for like $9 or $8 or something like that. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna turn some light on the situation here. Let's just see if we get lucky and any of these screw holes line up with these slots, because that would be absolutely epic if that did. Okay. And then once we can, oh man, look at that. So we can get the upper screw in there, and we can get the lower screw in there, and that should be enough to hold it, and then we can put a strap through this piece, and we can strap our Xlx2 down, and we'll have it screwed down, and we will put some double-sided tape on it. So I think that's going to be perfect. It butts up right to the edge of the battery tray like it was meant to be there. And then it also gives us enough room back here to mount our receiver box. So yeah, I think that's what we're going to do. Perfect. Okay, now, next step. Motor fitment. Let's see how the motor fits in the motor tray. Ay, ay, ay. Just barely, man. Just barely. If I can squeeze it and make it fit. If I could just squeeze it and make it fit. Yep, it's got to go something. It's got to go something like that because of the front mount. Because see, the shorter motors, they have this clamp that goes on the front. That was one thing I noticed with this. This doesn't have that clamp. It's actually molded into the front like a typical motor. So I don't have to run that clamp, which is actually pretty helpful here. So we're just going to use the stock mount here. And yeah, the only thing I really got to do, I got to go in here, I got to grind some of this out, which in the future is going to make it a little difficult if I want to run my other motors. But I guess I could put a shim or something like that if I want to go back and run a different motor. It just depends. Golly. That would fit so good if it wasn't for the water jacket being so thick. You know? Okay. I think what I'm going to have to do is do a little bit of grinding. Now, after a little bit of grinding with my little cheap little $14 makeshift Dremel from Harbor Freight, I went ahead and took this piece. You can see here on the end I grinded it down, and then I made enough space inside the boat here. I took the water jacket off of the Tenshock. Check that out. It's got a baffle inside of it. That is really cool. That forces water to go all the way around. That's pretty neat. So yep, all I had to do, I had to just Dremel a little bit off the corner. I took very little off the bottom, and then a little bit more off of that corner there, and then that lays in there like so. I'm gonna see if I can show you. Let's see. So yep, it's perfectly flush on the bottom. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. Then what we gotta do is we're gonna take this little clamp here. Let's see if this fits. I've yet to test fit this. Still may need to grind on it. Not bad, not bad. I think I'm gonna have to put spacers in between the two. If we look here, see how we got that little bit of a gap over there? So that's the other side touching, that's this side touching. So that's like halfway even. So we've got like 1/8 of an inch of a gap. So theoretically, I could probably stack like 4 washers there, maybe 3 washers there, but I actually think I have something in my kit that I can use to make up that space. It's either that or completely fabricate another style of clamp. But I don't know how much this clamp's actually going to do, because the front motor mount here is going to do all the work. I think this just helps keep it in place in a crash to where it doesn't break any of this out here. So I think it looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and start working on bolting it all together, and I'll show you what the final product looks like. Okay, now quick transparency. I went ahead and I figured out how I was going to do that. I took the screws, I got the next size up in length. It's only like, I don't know, 4 more length in thread, and I stacked 2 nuts on them to basically, instead of it stopping where it's supposed to stop, it gives me a solid stop and a solid clamp. So that's how I fixed, and that's how I made my spacer. Now, something that I just noticed as I went to mount this thing, I want you to see this, check it out. The motor has no flat spot. It has absolutely no flat spot. Now, I don't know if that's something common with these motors, but there's no flat spot on it. So now what I have to do, I've got to take my Dremel and I've got to make a flat spot on it. I hate that. Alright, so this is how I figured I was going to do it. I decided not to use paper towel, just went with a plastic bag. I just poked a hole through it, that way I don't get any metal shavings in it, and I can hold my hand over it and I won't get anything in there. So that'll keep it nice and tight and nice, and we'll go ahead and put us a flat spot on it. Well, got that all done. The bag idea worked pretty good. Just kind of held my hand over the back of it and kept all the metal shavings away. Now if we come here, let's try to see if we can get a close-up look at that. I don't know if the camera will focus. Yeah, there we go. So I got a flat spot on it. I did not go nowhere near as deep as the flat spot over here on my TP motor. I just felt like, you know, the flat spot may cause an imbalance, so we just kind of I went light with it. But it's definitely more than the width of the grub screw, so this should be enough. It actually looks way bigger on camera. If I pan back out, it doesn't look nowhere near as drastic. You can't even hardly tell on the end of it. But yeah, it's kind of crazy that it didn't come with one, but you know, gotta make do with what we get. Got the Xlx2 tray all mounted in there. Went ahead and used one of these style screws for underneath it, because that's actually going to be underneath the Xlx2. And then I've got a little button head screw down here holding it down here. And I've left myself just enough room here for the receiver box. So everything should be good to go there. Now, I got to make sure that I grind enough off of this. What I noticed was I didn't grind enough earlier, because when I go to slide my cable in, my motor's unaligned by maybe 1 millimeter. So I'm really a stickler about getting the proper motor alignment. This shaft must slip in the motor with no resistance, just slide right into the collet. If it doesn't, when the motor's all tightened down, then the motor's at a cocked angle and you're going to create heat. And you're going to end up burning up your cable, burning up the inside of your liner. So, got to grind a little bit more out of here. Here we are. Got the motor all mounted. Looking pretty good. Now, unfortunately, I was not able to use this style unit only because it's larger in diameter. And the way that this is set up, it was so close to the motor mount there that it just wasn't going to clear it. So, unfortunately, I had to stick with that motor mount, or with that collet. But if we take a look here, it slides in and out beautifully like a glove. Like a glove. Okay. Now, I've already got the tray mounted, so all we really got to do is take this strap here, and we can just pop on the Xlx2, and then I need to put this back in the box, and I need to hook up the wires to the Xlx2, and then we'll pretty much be done. Second thing I have to do next is pop this on, and then we'll throw everything in there, and I'll show you the finished product. Now we got everything nice and tidy in there. Got all my cooling lines hooked up. Everything is good to go. I like that little trick there. Put a spring on it. Big B taught that trick. That way it doesn't kink, because we're, you know, might get hot, whatever, and then it might kink over. So the little spring there helps. These nipples were pretty small. Could have been bigger, but zip tie is going to keep it on there. I wish the cooling can on the motor, being that it was a bigger motor, I wish that that was also larger and longer. I learned that from running my TP motor, wherever that thing is right now. But yeah, I had to put, you know, the stock one here. That was even too small. But next thing I got to do, I'm going to go ahead and put some 8mm connectors, and I'm going to wire them up to the 5.5s that they supplied. And we're just going to make us some jumper wires, keep them out of the way of the batteries, and get it all wired up. Well, we have finally reached the end of the process. Go ahead and take this off. Got it all looking nice and tight and nice. I had to make these jumpers. We go from 8mm connectors down to the provided 5.5mm connectors. I don't know why they didn't just make those 6.5s. It would have just made it a lot easier on everybody. But I went ahead and made the jumpers. Got it all nice and clean. Got my wire separated, looking good. I can either run a single 6S battery or my jumper where I can run 2 3S batteries. I'm sure that motor will probably handle 8S, but I'm only going to run this boat on 6S, trying to save weight. That was kind of the idea with running the 2100 kV motor. Now, it's kind of crazy. On the paperwork from OSE and on their website, they list this motor as a 2150. But on the back of the motor, it's listed as a 2100 kV motor. So, in my opinion, it's probably not far off, like RPM wise, of the 2060 kV TP motor. But I'm probably almost guaranteed that this motor is going to be as equal to probably a 4092 or higher. We're going to find out. Hopefully we don't break a shaft and spin a collet, do all sorts of crazy stuff. But before I go, I want to show you in there. I got it all nice and tidy. Yeah, looks really good. But before I go, before I end the video, I want to go ahead and put it back on the scale and see what it weighs now that we put all this on here. Alright, well, we got it on the scale. It weighs 7 pounds, 12.5 ounces. So basically, with the Xlx2 and the motor, we've only gained 6 ounces. That really isn't that bad, in my opinion. The Xlx2 is very, very heavy, but with these the Firma 160 taken out and the TP motor taken out, I think it's going to be pretty good. So stay tuned for the next video because that's when we're going to run it. Well, I just want to thank y'all for tuning into the video. I was kind of excited when that motor showed up in the mail today. I was expecting it to show up in like June. You know, I got this thing a month early, being that it was pre-order. It showed up probably 3 weeks to a month after I ordered it. But you know, one thing I'm curious about, and if you would leave me a message in the comments and let me know, I believe since it's a 6-pole motor, I'm curious what timing should I set this thing on, just to be safe. You know, rather safe than sorry. I'm gonna run it on 0 to begin with. But if anybody has any opinion or any background information on timing for these motors, please let me know. But thank y'all for watching. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, smash that subscribe button. I will see y'all on the next one. Peace.